Hello, what's up, good people? Good to see you. A lot of people tend to ask me, hey Joseph, what's the difference between an emergency fund and a savings? All right, what draws a line between those two things? Because to me, sometimes it sounds as if it's the same. And by the way, is it the same? And if they are different, and what am I supposed to do for me to get what I call the emergency fund and get what I call the savings? And baby, can you just shed a light about these two things? Because sometimes I get confused. All right, and I'm telling you what, today is your day, and any other person who is out there usually gets confused between those two things. So I'm going to take you through step by step and explain to you what's an emergency fund. By the way, if you are out there, you are an adult, maybe you are married, or you have a children, or you have something, you know what? I always tell people the most predictable thing about life, it's unpredictability. You can never predict how life is. So it's always good to always have that what we call an emergency fund, so that at least you never know, you can get yourself out of a big trouble. All right. But before we do that, as always, just take 1 second. Guess what? It is fast and free. Just 1 second. Down below there on your right, there is a button written subscribe. It is in black. All right. Just hit it. It disappears. Then on your left, there is a like button like this. Hit that button as well. Guess what would you when you hit those two buttons, Matt? So you get to be notified whenever in future I upload any good video. So you will never ever miss any of my good videos in this good channel. And by the way, it takes 1 second. Just do it, and then we go ahead. All right, say thank you for very much for doing exactly that. Now, what's the difference between an emergency fund and a savings, and what draws a line, and what is it? All right, so I'm gonna start with exactly what is called an emergency fund. All right, so an emergency fund is that fund that usually set aside in liquid form. That's the point. Underline that point. In liquid form. When I say in liquid form, it means that a money that you can actually go there and get it like immediately whenever you want it. All right. That money is put aside, just not usually a very big percentage of it, or from the percentage that you usually earn from, or maybe let's say your salary or an income. All right, that's a money that you set aside just in case of anything. Say you married, you got your kids, and maybe you got some other things, or maybe let's just say like you invest in farming or something of sort. Like emergency happens anywhere, just from the term emergency. So it's an emergency fund. A disease can show up from your home or to your home. Anything can just show up in a place, like you maybe let's say you're the breadwinner in that family, and then you aren't feeling well, and then maybe you don't have any way that you can be able to feed your family or something of sort. So this is a money that you set aside. It is not for investment. This is where people get it wrong. Emergency fund is not for investment. It's a money you just put aside in case of a rainy day. When a rainy day comes, and when I talk of a rainy day, that day that you feel like you really need cash. It's always, we call it like a cash crunch day, that you really need cash for you to be able to push yourself to the next level. Let's say maybe labda you sick or something, and then you overdue in terms of rent if you're still paying, or your mortgage or something, or your car, or any other debts that you're servicing out there. Or maybe just say like you really need cash right now. Maybe you've just received a call from home, like something needs to be hurried up, or need you play a role or something also. So that's the cash that usually go and take and sustain your life, so that you can be able to move along. So emergency fund it's usually set aside to make sure that you sustain the normal day-to-day activities in your life, such that you don't get yourself in a situation whereby you're forced maybe to go out there and and get your loans, and some of those loans are not healthy, from the Shylocks and what have you. So an emergency fund usually deduct a very small percentage from your income. You can just talk of like 5%, or sometimes 3%. Personally, I love to put like 3% of how much I usually earn. I put it aside, and then at the end of the day, I know I have something a little out there. So an emergency fund, that is basically what sums it to it, or what it means to that is exactly what it means when I talk of an emergency. Maybe you can just bring on the what's a savings, and then from there you can be able to draw the difference between the two. All right. And remember this, these are the points to remember in emergency fund. An emergency fund is not for investment. An emergency fund should always be in liquid form, not in an asset form. Get my point. An emergency fund should not be in an asset form, should always in a liquid form, meaning like it's a money in a bank, or in a circle, in whatever place that you keep it, like that you can access any moment that you want it, because its purpose is to serve for the emergency. But when you talk of savings, that means that money is meant for the purposes of investment. All right, you put a certain percentage of your income, which is preferably at least 20%. You put it aside, you accumulate it. Now that savings now graduates and become a certain name, which is capital. You take the capital, you invest it. After investing it, now the capital gives you babies, which is the passive money, and that's how you grow yourself. All right, and guess what? When we are saving when you are saving for the purposes of investment and the future growth, we usually kind of strain. You have to sacrifice some things for you to be able to achieve exactly that. But when we're dealing with emergency fund, usually put aside that amount of money that, well, I know it feels a pinch, but doesn't really, hold you doing other normal things in your life. I don't know whether you get the difference. So that's the major difference between an emergency fund and a savings. A savings purposefully is meant for you to raise the capital to start a business and then grow yourself, so that you can be able to earn in what we call the passive incomes. Usually I call it the baby money, so that you can be able to grow yourself and move to the next level in terms of development. That is the savings. And savings usually call upon sacrifices, and making sacrifices, discipline, persistency, and consistency, making sure you raise that capital for you to invest. That's a saving. But when we're talking of an emergency fund, it's a fund that you put aside just in case of anything. And I said, you can just put your saving in terms of an asset. All right, yeah, you can put your savings in terms of an asset. You may just get yourself somewhere, you get a piece of land, and you paying slowly after every month or after every week. I don't know how the way you usually paid. But when you talk of an emergency fund, it has to be a liquid money. It is not for an investment. No, you don't invest that money. You put it in a liquid form, and then from there, and if anything shows up in your family, then you can be able to withdraw that money, sustain, or maybe cap that situation that you're having at hand. Then from there, grow to the next level. And I'm telling you this, these are some of the advantages of you having an emergency fund. Advantages of, actually the main advantage of you having an emergency fund, just like I said when I was beginning this video, is that life is unpredictable. You can never predict. All right, BS happens any moment. All right, so if BS happens though, then you have to get that money, or you have to have a money at your disposal, or the money at your disposal that you can grab and sustain your life, and usually put it somewhere and move to the next step. Have you ever been in a situation whereby, let's say you're sick, or maybe you got your sick kid out there, and God forbid, or maybe just an emergency happens in life, and then you're like, oh my goodness, where do I get that money, and such kind of a thing. So if you had somewhere some cash that you can just go grab it, and then do that specific thing, and everything is okay. I've seen a lot of people getting themselves into challenges in terms of debts and unhealthy debts and something of sort, because they never had an emergency fund set somewhere. It's always good to have that emergency fund at your disposal. You can be able to access it any moment, anytime, anywhere, and anyhow. You can be able to get that money that moment that you need it. That's called an emergency fund. And by the way, it's good to create that portfolio of an emergency fund, which becomes bigger. All right, even if when a challenge comes, well, I know you don't have to really kind of worry, because you already know, you know what, I got that covered. You get my point. Yeah, I get that covered. Let's say maybe you are out there, maybe you have your cows there, and maybe that's your investment, and maybe you wake up in the morning, like one cow is dead, or maybe let's say like one cow is not at par in terms of production or something of so you must have a way of, like, maybe you don't have money to call a doctor and something, so you have to. All right, if it's an investment, you should have at its own emergency fund. If it's about you and the family, you should have at your own emergency fund. That's how we usually do what we call covering up for the future challenge that can show up, because you never know. This is life, and anything can actually happen. All right, so I bet you've understood that point. And by the way, if you've managed to watch this video up to this particular point, I cannot forget to tell you, thank you very much for actually watching it. And by the way, if you forgot to do exactly what I told you very when you were starting about subscribing, guess what? Come on, just 1 second. All right, just down below there on your right, hit that button. It is in black, and I told you the importance of that. You never miss any video that I upload in the future. And again, give this video a thumbs up, smash that like button as well. And again, make sure at least you comment down below, tell me what you think. Do you have your own emergency fund? And how exactly do you save it? What percentage do you save, and how do you do it? All right, so, and by the way, has it ever helped you in a situation where you really needed that liquid cash? All right, let's comment down below, tell me what you think, because I'm a believer you got something that I can learn from too as well. Okay, by the way, if you're out there, you're still confused, don't even know what business to start and how to start it, I'm back here. I'll always have booklets about business ideas, business plan, about shares, about money market fund, about treasury bills, circles, and all those investments, and other thousand, or rather tens and tens of business plans ready for me, or rather ready for you. You can grab a copy. You get my number from the description of this specific box or rather video, and then from there you text me WhatsApp, you get your copy. About the booklet, it's 220. About the business plans, it's usually 400. We do business as simple as that. All right, so for now it's a goodbye. Let's meet in the next time. See ya.